Sam Jackson, Director of Product Management with Risk Solutions at Neustar. Today I'm going to be demoing a new product initiative for you called Instant Verification and Authentication. But before I jump into the demo, I'd like to tell you a little bit more about who we are and what we do. So I work in Risk Solutions, and most of the products that I focus on revolve around identity verification in one way or another. So we use this data for compliance, and we use this data for fraud prevention. But that's not all that Neustar does. We also operate in a wide range of other verticals, such as marketing, communications, security, and risk. So to give you an example of some of the products that we offer, we support multi-touch attribution. We have a data management platform for advertising. We do lead scoring. We do CRM onboarding. We manage caller ID. We do DNS resolution. We're basically leaders in identity across a wide range of different verticals. Of course, I'm in risk, and so the stuff that I'm most interested in revolves around determining whether or not people are who they say they are. And how do we do this? Well, most of the decisions that we make are rendered through what's called our OneID system. This is a massive compendium of identity data that profiles the adult population of North America. This allows us to make decisions like, does a phone number belong to a particular individual, or is a device associated with a particular household? The scale of the data that we collect is really quite unprecedented. There's nothing else like the OneID system in existence today. And with that, we're able to develop product solutions that allow us to verify identities and link those identities to devices in order to enable trusted interactions between brands and consumers. This is at the heart of all of our fraud prevention technologies, and so it's a topic that's very near to what I do. We're going to be leveraging the OneID system as part of our new product, Instant Verification and Authentication, or IVA for short. IVA combines physical ID scanning with our best-in-class identity verification to deliver a comprehensive fraud solution for device-based identification. So a user will scan an ID, typically a license or some other form of state ID, and potentially optionally provide a photo for facial recognition. We do a variety of different checks based on machine learning to guarantee that physical ID is not counterfeit. And in the background, we also query the mobile carrier that the device belongs to determine the telephone number for the device. The details from the license or the other physical ID are then used to pre-fill the application form that the user would then complete as part of their sign-up experience. And this is intended to provide a fast, low-friction user experience. Based on the PII that was submitted as part of the sign-up form, as well as data gleaned from the license and the phone number provided by the phone's carrier, we're able to run a variety of different identity checks against the OneID system to verify that the phone belongs to the individual who's applying for the account and that the license and other information is corroborated by our system. Assuming that everything checks out, the applicant is verified and approved in less time than it takes to buy a cup of coffee. After that, once we've asserted that the identity is in fact correct, we perform device fingerprinting and behavioral biometrics on the device, such that when we see the user again in the future, we know that it's still their device and that the account has not somehow been compromised. So with that, I'm going to jump into the demo. This demo is going to be using an app that we've produced effectively so that we could showcase the features of our identity verification SDK to executives who might be interested in purchasing it for fraud prevention. As such, it doesn't exactly represent the customer experience the end user would have, because once we've verified the identity, we then surface the results. In reality, we would not normally tell a fraudster why they failed to pass a particular identity check, but to illustrate how the system works, we've put together this app to showcase the overall offering. So as you can see, there are 3 different modalities. When you're choosing to register a device and identify yourself, you can scan the back of the ID, you can scan the front and back of the ID, or you can scan the front and back and also do facial recognition. Depending on which modality you choose, the consumer will have varying levels of friction in terms of the amount of time that it takes to complete the sign-up interaction. For the demo today, I'm going to be capturing the front and back of my ID. So as you can see, the user is going to be presented with some instructions. It tells you to take a government issue ID, place it on the dark surface, and capture the data. So here I am. Here's my ID. Continue. I'm going to scan the back of the ID. Continue. And what's happening here is that we're uploading the data to the cloud. We're performing a wide range of different checks on it, such as verifying that the lithography on the ID is in fact real and not counterfeit. Checking to see that all the security features associated with the ID match the California state driver's license. At the end of this, we have, with a high degree of confidence, a decision that tells us that the ID is in fact legitimate. At this point, information from the ID has been extracted off the 3D barcode on the back and used to form fill the sign-up form that a user would typically have to complete as part of an application process. I'm going to go ahead and add my additional details here, which are my phone number and email address. And this is in fact my real phone number, and this is in fact a real email address that I use. And in a moment you'll see that we're able to verify this identity. That said, the phone itself does not belong to me. This is a company phone, and it's not registered in my name, and so we're going to see that when we do the M&O carrier phone identification. Okay, so as far as the score goes, my identity was fairly well corroborated in the Neustar system. It appears that I got an 85 rather than 100 because there were probably some anomalous indicators associated with my identity. It suggests that maybe I could be committing fraud. But the device itself does not match the identity whatsoever. And in a moment, I'm going to show you why. So down here, we surface some of the results that we would normally return back to a decision system or to one of our own risk models. And so this is just meant to illustrate some of the many data points that we can bring to bear when verifying an identity. This is not comprehensive. It's really just a kind of proof point of how the system works. As you can see here, the first area corresponds to the details from the sign-up form. This is the information that I provided, some of which was pulled off the driver's license. So as you can see, there's the telephone number for me. This is the one that I typed in. It is in fact a prepaid number that is potentially associated with fraud. And so as such, the overall score that I got was not 100, even though the identity information did seem to check out for the most part. Below the phone number, you can see that we did 3 different verification checks that we're showing here. In reality, we do over 8 different checks. But the nature of these is that we look in the OneID system and we see, do we have a match between the phone number and the name? Do we have a match between the phone number and the address? Do we have a match between the phone number and the email? And then, in the background, we're also doing things like name to address, address to email, and so on. Altogether, if it's a highly corroborated identity, we would expect all of these different things to check out. We also have some information on the phone's activity in the last month, or in fact, actually, for the duration of the time that I've owned the phone. It looks like the phone was ported back in July of 2016. I took it from T-Mobile to Verizon. That's correct. And the last 2 months, I've only used it a little bit, but over the past year, I used it quite a lot. That said, it's only been in service for the last month, and that's because I left the country and briefly deactivated it. Carrier identity. So this is the information that we actually pull off of the carrier network. So this phone, it's a company phone, as I mentioned before. And so in the background, while I was filling out my own information, we went ahead and queried the carrier, which in this case is AT&T, and they identified for us that the telephone number is 415-818-6834. So not the same telephone number that I provided. This suggests that I might be somebody who's attempting to impersonate another individual's identity. And thus, when we score the identity relative to the phone itself, nothing checks out and we get a 0. The app also surfaces a variety of other details, and this is just, again, meant to illustrate the kinds of metadata that we can provide when doing identity verification. So, for example, this is a legitimate email address. It's not associated with spam or anything else. It's not, for example, mickeymouse@disney.com. So yeah, you can use this email address and it will likely reach my inbox. In fact, I know it will. And we also provide some information about the street address and the government-issued ID. So this is, in fact, a valid address. It's the apartment where I live. It's not, for example, a mail delivery box inside of a larger apartment building or anything else that would typically be considered anomalous. And then down here we have the information from the government-issued ID. There was no facial identification performed, so that score is null. But otherwise, we know that it's a California state ID. We have some details about it, and also information on me, such as my height and date of birth. This is all the kinds of information that we can return to you if you choose to use IVA. Or alternatively, if it's kind of too much information from your own organization to process, we have a wide variety of different capabilities around modeling and decisioning that allow us to render custom risk scores to suit your needs. And that concludes my demo. Thank you.